Nobody split. Give the ball up and over, and in, I believe, touchdown! Touchdown Auburn!
Everyone's heard of Bo Jackson, but in the 80s, you had to be there to truly understand the legend.
Bo Jackson hit behind the line, breaks tackle, 3 tackles. He's gone. Touchdown Auburn. 53 yards on that run for Bo Jackson.
Before social media, before highlight reels went viral, Bo Jackson did things that defy human capability. He wasn't just stronger or faster than everyone else. He existed on a different plane of athletic performance. If TikTok and Instagram existed in Bo's era, we wouldn't just be talking about viral moments. We'd be discussing whether what we were seeing was even real. Today, we break down the truth behind the legend and reveal why Bo Jackson remains the greatest pure athlete of all time. A phenomenon so extraordinary that you will absolutely never see this again.
Jackson's on his way. Goodbye. In your face.
Bo Jackson came along at the perfect time. He had all these gifts. I do think he was probably the greatest athlete who's ever lived.
Let's start at the beginning in Bessemer, Alabama, where a young Vincent Edward Jackson grew up in conditions most can't imagine. One of 10 children crammed into a 3-room house. That's 3 rooms, not bedrooms. While today's athletes have personal trainers by age 10, Bo wore his sister's hand-me-down shoes, or sometimes just socks to school. His severe stutter made him a target, and trouble found him everywhere, fighting, stealing, and bullying. Bo and his gang, as his mother used to call them, once got into trouble for wrestling, riding, and even beating a farmer's hogs with sticks. After that, people around Bessemer started calling him Boar Hog, because he was wild, strong, and impossible to stop.
Hot temper, angry, fight all the time. He was just bullheaded, so they started calling him Boar Hog. It's like the bully of the pen. That's the way Bo was. And as he got older, they just shortened it to Bo.
Interestingly, the Bo that the world came to know, the respectful, soft-spoken, thoughtful adult, was nothing like the kid growing up in Bessemer. That kid was wild, explosive, a walking fight waiting to happen.
He grew up in Bessemer, Alabama, dirt poor, one of 11 kids, single mom, 3-room house, not 3-bedroom, 3-room house, oftentimes sleeping against a heater, like a wood-burning stove that he would roll against at night and have burn marks on his arm. Wore his sister's hand-me-down shoes to school, not his brothers, his sisters. Oftentimes wore socks without shoes to school, had a severe pronounced stutter, was held back a year. All that stuff, all that sort of difficulty, all those problems really led him to sports. And I know it sounds cliche, but in his case, it's so extreme.
If you told someone back then that he'd grow up to be a quiet, reflective man who would one day speak with wisdom on national stages, they'd have laughed in your face. But that's what makes his story so unbelievable. Bo didn't just outrun defenders. He outran his environment, his demons, and the version of himself that almost never made it out of childhood. By high school, Bo's raw talent exploded into something otherworldly. Every one of us remembers those kids in school that were just better than everyone else. But kids in Bo's high school witnessed an athlete with superhero skills. At McAdory High, Bo tied the national record with 20 home runs in a single season, while playing just 16 games because he was constantly off winning track meets. Let that sink in. He crushed national marks while barely even playing a full schedule. He batted .500, led off games with homers 5 times, and hit 1 ball over 500 feet. But maybe even more impressive were his infield hits. One time, he hit a one-hopper back to the pitcher and beat the throw to first by half a step. On the base paths, Bo stole 90 out of 91 attempts in high school, which doesn't even sound real. Pitchers knew he was running. Catchers knew he was going. It didn't matter. He was so fast, so explosive. By the time the catcher stood up to throw, Bo was already brushing the dust off his pants at second base. There wasn't a green light with Bo. It was just understood. If he wanted the base, it was his.
he's known for his home runs, and most of them that he hit were to right field. He's always hitting the right field. He hit 21 out his senior year, which was still a national high school record, and he only played in like 16 games. We measured one at Thompson High School, which is down the road here. He hit, and we measured 501. We got a tape measure after the game. It went 501.
In track, Bo didn't just win. He overwhelmed the competition. He became a two-time Alabama State decathlon champion, even though his school didn't have the gear to support it. As his high school coach tells it, McAdory High didn't have any track facilities. They used what they had, practiced hurdles with folding chairs, and when Bo had to compete in the pole vault for the decathlon, he watched the guys from the other teams practicing, then borrowed a pole from another school and cleared 12.6.
We don't have any track facilities here at all, and we did our running around the fences and out on the streets. We practiced hurdles over folding chairs. We really just did what we could do here.
And he hated distance running so much that both times he won the state decathlon, he skipped the final event, the 1,500 meters, because he was already too far ahead for anyone to catch him. In fact, he competed in his sweatpants in one of those meets. On the football field at McAdory High, Bo wasn't just dominant, he was dangerous. Playing in a state where football is a religion, he racked up over 1,175 rushing yards and 17 touchdowns in just 9 games as a senior. But the stats didn't tell the whole story. Bo didn't just play running back in high school. He never left the field. Offense, defense, punt returner, kick returner, even kicker. If there was a play to be made, Bo was making it. He wasn't just the best athlete on the team. He was the entire team's cheat code.
Bo was an athlete. He could do anything. He was a great blocker. He was a great defensive player. He was a kicker. He returned punts and kickoffs for touchdowns. He could do it all.
Wait, what? He just scored a touchdown without his jersey. Coaches who saw him in person couldn't believe what they were watching. A 6'1", 220-pound running back with Olympic-level speed who could punish tacklers and vanish before they even knew what happened. To put that in perspective, imagine trying to catch a Mack truck. That runs a 100-meter dash like it's Usain Bolt. That's what Bo looked like in high school.
Any good stories with Bo Jackson?
So we had a great high school football team. So we played Bo's high school. And Bo's one of the few athletes who the same size in high school as he was in college. Yeah.
He was a monster in high school like
Yes.
that?
Like everybody else get bigger when they go to college.
He was there already.
Bo, and it was one of the most amazing things. Like every time he touched the ball, that he either scored or broke like a 15, 20-yard run. And I was like, he's already bigger and faster than everybody else. And like, he's bigger than our defensive lineman. But it was so beautiful to watch. And then he comes to Auburn the next year. It was a pleasure and an honor to watch that dude play football every Saturday.
Bo's high school exploits sparked a heated recruiting battle, especially between Auburn and Alabama. But there was one problem with Alabama. Bear Bryant's team was so stacked, Bo wouldn't be able to play as a freshman. He didn't want to wait. Auburn, on the other hand, not only offered him a real shot to contribute early, but also something else Bo cared about: the chance to play both football and baseball. And that mattered. Because even though he'd signed a football scholarship, Bo made it clear baseball wasn't a backup plan. It was part of who he was. Auburn didn't just allow it, they embraced it. That openness became a deciding factor, especially after he turned down a $250,000 offer from the New York Yankees straight out of high school. George Steinbrenner himself tried to lure Bo into skipping college altogether, and for a kid who grew up without much, that kind of money could have changed everything. But Bo had made a promise to his mom. He'd be the first in the family to go to college, and even with life-changing money on the table, he kept it. So he chose Auburn.
And I could have gone anywhere in the country I wanted to, but he was the only man to say this. He said, if you come to Auburn, at that time, I've never been to Auburn, didn't know where Auburn was. He said, if you were to come to Auburn, I promise you that I will give you every opportunity on the planet to be a starter next year. And he did. That's all I needed to hear from anybody because I knew what I could do. Nobody else did. And he said that to me, and that opened my eyes and made me believe in that man.
And unknowingly, he chose to redefine what one athlete could be.
Jackson, he's loose. They'll never get him.
Bo didn't ease into college football. He kicked the door off the hinges. From the moment he stepped on campus at Auburn in 1982, coaches knew they had something special. He was just a freshman, but in fall workouts, Bo clocked a 4.18 40-yard dash on grass in pads. To put that in context, Tyreek Hill, literally nicknamed Cheetah, runs a 4.29. Bo's time is still whispered about today.
Bo coming to Auburn just put the whole program on another level.
You have expectations that you have a chance as long as Bo Jackson is on the field.
While we're on the topic of 40 times, let's fast forward a few years to 1986 for a second. Bo ran the most legendary 40-yard dash ever recorded. The first run, around 4.3 seconds, but scouts didn't believe it, so he ran it again. The funny thing is that Bo had started slowing down early to avoid crashing into the wall, so they opened the back door and told him to run through it. This time, Bo didn't just run the 40, he ran out of the building. The time? An electronic 4.13, a time that is still, even today, one of the fastest ever recorded. Some scouts even had it in the high threes, which again is superhuman and hard to even comprehend, especially for someone that was 220 pounds.
At track practice.
Right.
And come in and run a 40, so I did. And I ran my first 40. And about 5 yards from the finish line, I kind of like let up and just cruised through. And I ran a 4.3 after track practice, what I had run. And some of the guys that had stopwatches, they had me at a 3.9 or 4 flat with stopwatches, but the electronic timer had got me at a 4.13.
The cool thing about that period in college football is that you got to see players for 4 years. So even if fans didn't have social media or even high definition, at least they got to watch their favorite athletes for longer. Early on, Bo was part of a crowded Auburn backfield with Lionel James and Tommy Agee. As a freshman in 1982, he wasn't the star yet, but you could already see flashes of something insane, like in the Iron Bowl that year. Auburn was down late to Alabama, 4th and goal at the 1. Everyone expected a run up the gut, but Bo had other plans. He told Coach Pat Dye, "Let me go over the top." Bo had been a 7-foot high jumper in high school, and he used every inch of that. He launched himself like a human missile, sailed over the pile, and landed in the end zone. Touchdown. Auburn wins.
4th and goal and a half a yard. Jackson! Touchdown!
And in Bear Bryant's final Iron Bowl, it was a freshman named Bo Jackson who sealed the win with one of the most iconic plays in college football history.
The last seconds ticked off of the clock. I made it a point to look across the field, and directly across the field on the 50-yard line was Ken Donahue, the coach that told me that we would never beat Alabama. He was standing beside Coach Bryant, locked arm in arm with Coach Bryant, and they walked toward the field. And I just looked at him and went off the field because things were getting a little crazy.
That leap became legend. Bo over the top. And interestingly, when you go back and look at old newspaper clippings, the phrase "over the top" shows up again and again throughout his career. That wasn't a go-to play in the early 80s, but Bo made it a thing. When Auburn needed a yard, everyone knew what was coming and nobody could stop it. A few weeks later, Bo capped off his freshman season in the 1982 Tangerine Bowl against Boston College. He wasn't the focal point yet, but he still made jaws drop. On one play, he reached behind his body to snag a wild option pitch with one hand, without even breaking stride. He finished with 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not bad for a role player. The signs were there. The avalanche was coming.
Watch it. You see the defensive line bury themselves. Now the linebackers couldn't get in. The guy that makes this whole play is number 85, West, because he drove the linebacker down the line of scrimmage and never let him get up in the air.
Oh, and one more thing about that Auburn team in 1982. They went 9-3, and get this, they started with 6 home games. I mean, what the heck? Out of their 11-game regular season schedule, they played 3 away games, with one being a neutral site game in the Iron Bowl against Alabama, although to be fair, that neutral site favored Alabama. But still, Talk about chips in your favor. The SEC, it just matters more. And then came 1983, sophomore year. Bo's official breakout. He rushed for 1,213 yards on just 158 carries, 7.7 yards per carry. The second best average in SEC history at the time. He was a walking cheat code. Defenders would stack the box, and he'd blast through it like it wasn't even there.
Pitching to Bo Jackson. Down the little hole. 35. Broke the tackle. 30. 35. The 40. Midfield. Foot race. Down the sideline. 30. 20. Bo's gonna go. Touchdown Auburn!
Auburn finished 11-1 that season, SEC champs, and Bo was no longer a rising star. He was a full-blown phenomenon.
He was just a phenomenal physical specimen, and probably you could call him a freak of nature if you wanted to, because it's just not, you don't see anybody that's that big and that coordinated and that powerful and that fast. There's been Earl Campbells and Herschel Walkers, and there's been some great big athletes, but I don't think there's been an athlete his size that could do all of the things that Bo could do.
I think an athlete has the ability to do multiple things at a very high level.
Could Michael have played baseball at a high level?
You're forgetting a profound guy in this conversation, Bo Vincent Jackson. If it wasn't for Bo, it wouldn't be no prime. So let's start with Bo.
Is Bo the best athlete?
I believe so.
When I played for Florida State as a freshman, true story, Bo was at Auburn. Back in the backfield with Brent Fullwood, probably the best tandem of running backs I've ever seen in college. These guys are unbelievable. And you heard of Bo Jackson, so you were kind of in awe as a young collegiate. I'm 17 years old playing Florida State, 18 at the time, just turned 18. Bo goes behind the huddle in Auburn and throws his hands up as if he was signifying the crowd to get it up. They start cheering and applauding, and I was playing left corner. Bo got a sweep to his left, away from me, and hit it. I mean, hit it, and he was gone. I came out of nowhere because I could fly. Came and got him, ran up on him like it was no other. With his right arm, he extended it, placed it on my helmet like as if he was praying for me, palming my helmet, and stiffed me down and kept going into the end zone like I wasn't even there.
Bo was hurt for parts of his junior year, but he came back in 1985 like a man possessed, rushed for 1,786 yards and 17 touchdowns. That's 160 yards per game, including 4 games over 200 yards. And one of his grittiest performances came in the Iron Bowl again. This time he ran for 142 yards on 31 carries with broken ribs.
Here's the big play, Keith. Howard's out of there. Jackson.
That season ended with Bo hoisting the Heisman Trophy, barely edging out Iowa QB Chuck Long in the closest vote in the award's history at the time.
Of the Heisman Memorial Trophy, in the closest vote in the history of this trophy, the winner is, from Auburn University, Bo Jackson.
But anyone who watched him knew there was no real debate. And here's the kicker. Football was just half the story. Bo was a monster in baseball too. He hit .401 with 17 home runs in 1985 alone. In one game against Georgia, under the lights at Foley Field, Bo smashed a home run into the light tower. Yes, like the natural. Then hit 2 more bombs in the same game. Georgia fans literally started bowing to him in right field. That wasn't a movie. That happened. In fact, in that game, Bo hit the longest home run in Georgia history. And for the record, The Natural premiered in May 1984, nearly a full year after Bo did it at Auburn.
He was just the most amazing specimen anybody had ever seen on a baseball field. He was superlative in everything, and I had heard a lot about him before I got here. He really is the only player I've ever seen who improved from one day to the next.
By the time he left Auburn, he had racked up 4,303 rushing yards, 43 touchdowns, a Heisman, All-American honors in baseball, and a highlight reel that still doesn't feel real. Oh, and I almost forgot, Bo also ran track during his time at Auburn. Without focusing much on track, he ran toe-to-toe with Olympic gold medalist Harvey Glantz. Bo didn't just change Auburn, he changed the limits of human possibility. And as jaw-dropping as his college career was, it was just the opening act. The real show, the one that would make him a legend for the ages, was still to come.
At the 25, he's in a foot race at the 20, to the 15, to the 10. Touchdown, Auburn!